Hi there, my name is Hollie Belle. You may know me from the Easy Mind, Easy Life YouTube videos. I've decided to start a separate channel because I no longer have just one book called Easy Mind, Easy Life. There are actually 5 of them, and a 6th one is at the publisher right now. I've just finished handing in the 6th book. But, I keep getting this urge to come and talk to you because what's the point of me receiving all of these beautiful books to share with everyone if nobody knows that they exist, right? So how can you benefit from these beautiful books if you don't even know they're out there? So that's the reason for this new channel. It's to include all of the books. And it's really, for me, I'm in a very different space from when I first started the first book, Your Past is a Gift. This book was actually my life story. And this is how it all began. So just to give you an idea of my story, in case you don't know anything about me, in 2012, I had quite a profound awakening. It was the year my daughter was born. And up until that point in my life, I honestly believed that when this beautiful little creature appeared in my life, I would be at peace. Everything would just fall into place somehow magically. Being a mother, I would be in love with everything, and all of my problems that I had carried up until that point in my life would somehow miraculously disappear. That was my belief. I honestly believed that all the love that I would have for this child would make everything else disappear. That was my belief. And the truth was, she came, and my beautiful daughter eventually came, and she was born. And the awakening I had was that all of the problems I had didn't disappear. And to top it off, because of the sleep deprivation, you get such interrupted sleep and such few hours when you have a newborn baby in the house that it actually magnified the problems. It made everything much worse. The anger that was there became much bigger. I was more angry than I was before. And the sadness that was there intensified. And so my daughter, I think she would have been about 2 years old. And at some point in that time frame, my husband said to me one morning, we were having a conversation, and he said to me, "You're still looking at your mother like you're 5 years old." And that comment, or it was more like a question, he was asking me, are you still looking at your mother like you're 5 years old? And it stopped me in my tracks. It really triggered this anger inside of me at the time because I took offense to it, like he was telling me I was being childish, or I was still looking at her like a child, I hadn't grown up, or I kind of took it that way. But for some reason, what he said started to really simmer inside my brain. It sat there. I just couldn't shake that out of my system. And it took me down this wonderful rabbit hole that ended up being Your Past is a Gift. From there, I found this beautiful self-esteem course online. And at the time, I thought that this self-esteem course, it was for children. I thought I was going to be able to apply it to my daughter that had just been born. And I wanted to give her all the tools to have all the confidence in the world, to do the things that she really wants to do and not feel afraid to, do things that she really wants to do, just to give her that boost, And it turned out that this beautiful course took me down that rabbit hole. I finally understood what my husband meant by you are still looking at your mother like you're 5 years old. Through that course, looking at everything from the eyes of the child, I realized that I was still trapped in that 5-year-old child. I had never moved past that point. All the pain that I had suffered at that age was still deep in there. I was still moving around with that pain inside of me. And then, certain things would happen and it would trigger that, to surface again. So after I did that self-esteem course, for some reason, I just had this urge to go through my whole life. I'd spent months walking around with a notebook And I would write down every single event that I could remember from my childhood. And from there, I created this process that when you look at the event, it's not just to look at the event as it is, but to also look at, okay, let's look at the facts of what happened. And then when you look at the facts of what happened, we look at, well, what did we decide about that? So say, for example, you're in year 5 of school, right? And you do a maths test, and in that maths test, you get, say, 50 out of 100, right? Or a 49 out of 100. Let's call it 49 because then that would be a fail, right? You would see that as a fail. So from there, you can decide the event is we did a maths test. That's all it was. The second thing that we look at is we failed the maths test. According to the numbers, 49 out of 100 is less than half. So that would be a fail. So that's how we look at the test. We fail the test. And the third thing that comes out of that is that many times we decide that we're not smart enough. Usually that's what comes out of events like that. You know, we don't think, oh, maybe I needed to work harder at learning how to do that or practice it more, or, you know, we don't come out of it thinking all those things. We come out thinking, most of the time, we come out thinking, oh, I'm stupid. I can't do it, right? And so that belief is created. And so that whole process of that first book was to go through all of those events of my childhood. Every single one that I could think of, I would write it down. Every single one. And you know, the magic of it was that as soon as I started writing them down, more would come up. There was so much stuff I had completely forgotten, you know? But as I started writing them down and starting to understand all the beliefs I created around each one, more would come up. More memories would surface. Either I'd dream about them overnight, or I would just be going about my day and it would just come into my head. Oh, I remember when that happened, you know? And then I would write that down, and then I would get home and then I would dissect it, so to speak, you know? I would just like really analyze it. So, you know, I really got to be in my bonnet about it, because I really wanted to look at my beliefs, you know? Were all my beliefs false? Like that belief that when I had my daughter, my life would be complete. I would be in bliss for the rest of my life and nothing would ever bother me ever again. And it just didn't happen that way. And that belief, for some reason, I'm not sure what the reason was, but that one belief caused me to look at all the other beliefs in my life to see if any of them were true. And it just created this whole process, you know, that I just, to this day, I haven't stopped, you know. And it's such a beautiful process to learn about yourself, to learn about your life, to begin to understand who you truly are, you know. So I thought, to kick off this new YouTube channel that I want to do, I want to go through each of the books that have been created so far and talk you through what you gain from each book, what you can learn from each book, or what I gained from each book, you know, that's got me to here. And the magic of it is that you start the process and you feel like, oh, nothing's changing. You know, I feel like I'm still the same person. But then one day you wake up and you realize, I'm not the same person. Something along the way shifts. That's the magic of this process. I don't know where along the way it shifts and things begin to change and you begin to look at things very differently. But it's such a beautiful process. And I feel selfish, you know, to continue writing and not sharing, you know, all the beautiful wisdom that has been given to me in these books to share. Because to me, they feel like downloads. When I sit down to write, it is effortless. I don't have to think about what comes next. It just comes, and all I do is type it. And the next thing I know, there's another book. And each book, it's funny enough, I start off and I think, oh, it's going to be the same. You know, how can it be any different to the one that I've just written? But somehow they always bring in another layer, another level, you know, something new that I just wasn't there before. but it just raises you again to a different vibration, you know, to a different frequency than what you were on before. So I would love it if you stay with it, you know, if you watch the videos. I try to keep each video quite short, you know, at least I try to keep it to the 10 minutes or, you know, somewhere between 10 and 12, and not too long, because I know everyone's really busy. And I like each video to have one main idea that you can just, if you need to, you can just keep replaying it, or just sit with that idea for the day and see, you know, if it can speak to you directly, to your heart. So that's why I'm here. I spent many years, I spent over 20 years of my adult life caught in a loop. I just felt like every year was the same year, and I was just regurgitating the same year over and over and over. Nothing was changing. I was just reliving the same experiences. I was just reliving the same over and over. And it wasn't something that I was thrilled to be experiencing over and over, you know. So I know what it's like to feel like you're on this hamster wheel, you know, or this carousel, if you like, and you just can't get off. No matter what you do, no matter what you change, it feels like nothing changes. So I would be honored for you to, you know, trust me to take you on this journey. And just to, it's so beautiful. You know, that first book I wrote, that was only 7 years ago that was published. You know, so much can happen in 7 years if you allow it, you know? So I love you all dearly. And remember to click like and subscribe so you don't miss any of the messages. And I'll see you in the next video, okay? Bye for now.